Okay, let's test out the volume really quick. All right, we are in business. Today, we are analyzing a subto deal for assignment in Fayetteville. So let's stay consistent, all right? 18 minutes a day for 365 days means that you are going to be better than 95% of the country. So let's do it together. Let's stay consistent. All right. So today we have this deal 3230 Periwinkle Drive. Turnkey ready to go, under 15% entry fee, including assignment. Will not currently cash flow long-term rental unless using Section 8. Very interesting. 3.9 miles from the Valley Hospital. So Fayetteville, for those that don't know it, I think it's a pretty heavy military town, but lots of midterm rentals I've heard about it. I have not been there personally. So 3-bed, 2-bath, no arrears. ADT security camera installed around the home, ready to go. That's interesting. That's security set. I didn't know that's a main selling point. 186 grand. So this is the loan that we would be taking over subject to, which means that we are not assuming the loan. We're simply taking over the payments for the underlying loan subject to existing financing. The PITI is 1421.49 a month. The seller's going to get $5,500. The agent is going to get $3,720, and there should be an assignment fee. So I have no idea what the assignment fee is right now, but it should be under 15% entry. So I'm just going to add in a delta at the end of the day, so to kind of plug it in, so I don't spend too much time guessing. All right, so where is this property? Biscuitville, Asian Express. Where are we? Lowe's, bunch of fast food, Lowe's Home Improvement. Where am I? There's a Walmart over there. Here is the medical center. So this is very much southeast, almost near this Hope Mills area. Here's your Walmart. Okay. And just so everybody knows, Fayetteville is essentially a little bit, it's almost like a triangle between Charlotte, Raleigh, and Fayetteville. All right, cool. Let's do a quick street view. All right, what kind of neighborhood are we in? Interesting. I don't see that many cars parked out there like that. Nothing's jumping out to me right away. So let's keep driving. What I'm looking for is just like any sort of signs of a big dump somewhere. Buildings being torn down. I don't see anything weird right now. Okay. All right. What do we got for schools? There's a 7 out of 10 school. So I like that. That's a pretty good rating right there. Let's see what's going on. So they bought this property in December 8th of 2022 for $182,000. Okay. Which means this is likely a low equity deal, which means that if you bought it for 182 and right now you're trying to sell for 195 after closing costs, fees, and etc., this person will probably be taking a loss if you just assume a 10% closing cost between seller commissions, closing costs, etc. I mean, that would bring you down 19.5K, just call it 20 grand. That'll bring you to 175. So you're almost taking a loss unless you are able to get the sub-2. So which is what's happening in this scenario, right? This person is still able to walk away with $5,500 instead of taking a loss. So this is a pretty high interest rate, unless this was a flip maybe. Like, oh, okay, hold on. Oh, this is a 2003 one. Wait a minute. These photos look pretty new. All right, so it's pretty turnkey. Let's try to figure out the crime score. So I go to tophap.com, tophap.com. Yes, heavy military town. Thanks, Andrea. Thanks for tuning in. So what I do is I quickly look at the neighborhood score, and I'm looking at the crime index. So 91, that's pretty much really close to the neighborhood I live in. So that feels pretty safe to me, especially if 91 is below the national average and everything kind of looks in line. Okay, so that checks out on that front. The next thing I want to do is I want to look at the county, Cumberland County. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up the FMR. So I go to HUD's website. I click on access small area FMRs. For those of you watching Instagram, feel free to always check in on YouTube, youtube.com/@Kent_HE, where you can see the full screen version. And let's see, this is what Cumberland. So once you go here, you can click by zip code, by bedroom count, and figure out what I would refer to as the FMR, or sometimes it's called the rent ceiling. Now, this is in zip code 28306 for a 3-bedroom. You can see that the FMR is 1610. Okay, so I'm going to note this down right now, 1610. And this is a fair market rent for a 3-bed in 28306. 28306. Okay. Next thing I want to do is I want to get the market rent. I quickly go to affordablehousing.com. I go to the market rent estimator section, and then I put in the address and I put in the 3 beds. Here you can see that the average market rent, and I'm paying attention to the far right side here, and it is $1,460. So that's the average rent for 25 units within a 0.83 mile radius for this property. So I like that number because it's kind of close to a 1610 number. So I might be able to get the full 1600 if I get lucky, but if not, I will probably underwrite using 1460 and 1610 just to see what my upside is, just because it's only $150 spread ish. 1330. Okay, just plug in all these numbers right now. All right, so I have that, and then I want to just quickly look at the photos to see what my potential renovation might be. No photos here, so I got some videos. So let's go through these videos of this property. This is the video. Flooring looks fine. I can see why they said it was turnkey. Do I see anything on the door? There's the HVAC. Vents look good. Doesn't even look like it needs new flooring. Let's see if we notice anything. I'm assuming everything is relatively renovated. Bathroom looks great, so that's going to be attractive to an affordable housing tenant. This is a home that I would personally be proud of. There's your ADT camera system. I'm guessing that's what they're talking about. Yeah, this looks. I like the farmhouse. I don't know how the yard look. Fencing can use a little work, but that's not really necessary. Looks like they pay. Oh, that's neighbor's home. Excuse me. All right. So the inside looks great. All right, the water heat looks right there. Okay, so that wasn't that bad. All right, cool. I'm good with that. So for me, I'm only going to set aside a little bit of money for roof and some termite issues, but that's going to be very, very minor. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug in some numbers here. So for this property, let's plug in the deal details here on the left-hand side. I'm going to put this over here, put this on the right, and so this way everyone can see. Now, the sub-2 loan that's in place is going to be $186,000, 186,000. I'm just going to plug that in. Interest rate is 7.25. I'm going to assume this was started in, I think I saw October, right? When earlier in the sales tax history. December. I'm going to put in December 8th, 2022. Okay. Next thing I want to do is plug in whatever details they gave me. So they said that the cash to seller is $5,500. Okay, $5,500. Agent fees $3,720. So that equals $3,720. No arrears. I'm gonna keep 2.5% closing costs right there. I don't know if they've included that as part of the entry fee, so we'll figure that one out. Sometimes we don't include that. Purchase price. I'm gonna put in. Let me put in $195,000 for now. $195,000 because it doesn't really matter because I got my sub-2 loan anyways. Now between that, they say the entry fee should be 15%. So let's just do some quick math here. If $195,000, well, let's do it this way. Let's assume that my cash to seller plus my sub-2 balance is $186,000. My True purchase price $191,500. So times that by 0.15, that would make it a total of $28,725. So there's an assignment here. So I'm gonna do equals 28,725 minus 3720, which is the cash to seller. I mean the agent, minus the cash to the seller, which is 5,500. So there should be a total of 19,000. That includes the assignment fee. All right, cool. Let's see what happens. 2.5% closing costs, 0 for eviction. For renovations on this property, again, I'm only putting in some money for termites, and I'm putting in some money, like $1,500 for the roof, just in case there's some weird things that come up. I don't need to do painting. I don't need to do anything. I got some landscaping expenses, just to kind of keep up with it. So that gives me a total rehab on the bottom of, just going through my numbers here, 3,600. Cool. That seems enough. That seems relatively fair for a turnkey property. All right, what is my rent? My rent here is, I'm going to start with the conservative number, which is the market rent was $1,460, right? So I'm going to put in $1,500, just to kind of keep things even. And my PITI is 1421.49. Okay, so I'm going to do my property taxes equals 1421.49, subtract the principal, subtract the interest rate. Oops, I got an extra loan in there. Let me zero that out. So my property taxes and insurance should be another $150 on this property. Okay. All right. And now I want to add $35 extra for insurance, just in case this was a primary residence. And if I go from a primary residence to an investment property, the insurance expenses should be a little bit higher than that. All right. Cool. So next up is, what do I have? I do not have an HOA, so let me zero that out. So every single month, I am going to, there it is. Okay, I'm going to set aside 10% every single month of my maintenance for repairs and anticipated expenses, etc. Because eventually I'm going to have to replace a roof. Eventually I'm going to replace the water heater. So setting aside 10% every single month makes me feel very comfortable. I never will have to reach into my own pocket, and I want the deal to self-fund itself. I got 8% for property management and 3% for vacancy. I like the 3% for vacancy because the home looks like it's in really good shape. Looks like it's going to photograph really, really well. So it's going to be really attractive. And I think someone's going to be really proud to live in this home. Now, here's the problem. Here's where we are right now. The interest rate is really high at 7.25%. At $1,500, this is not cash flow. At $1,500 right now, this would be a negative $271 cash flow. Cash on cash return is negative 9.8. And the purchase price here is assuming $191,500. Okay. Rehab is $3,600. Okay, cool. All right. Well, if that's what it costs, then I'm not sure how it was going to cash flow unless you're using Section 8. Now, unless you zero out all the expenses, let's just do that for fun. This is why they probably said it was going to cash flow. If you didn't set aside any money for maintenance, if you didn't set aside any money for property management, you didn't set aside any money for vacancy, then that's how it cash flows to $43. You could call it $16.10, right? And you probably cash flow $150. But that's not how I would market the deal. But then again, everybody markets the deals differently. However, I would highly, highly recommend, you always got to set aside money because something always breaks in your home. You always got to set aside some money for property management, because why do you want to self-manage the property? Like, what if there is an eviction? What is a tenant issue? What if there's a lawsuit because you didn't know your tenant landlord regulations in your city or your county? That's just not smart. And somebody will eventually move out. It doesn't matter if you have a really, really loyal tenant that stays there for 10, 15 years, but eventually they still move out. So you got to have some vacancy in there because you're going to have an empty month eventually. So it's almost irresponsible to not leave any or underwrite with any vacancy expenses there. So at $1,500, this is not a cash flowing deal, even though it was marketed as it will cash flow unless you're using Section 8. All right. So just for fun today, let's go through, because I know that Fayetteville is a huge military town and like the midterm rentals there. I'm not the midterm rental expert by any means, but let's just take a quick look and see what's available for. Let's go January. Let's go February even, because it'll probably take a little bit of time to close. What if I look at only just 3-bedroom homes and I just go to Furnish Finder just really quick. And I'm going to the Hope Mill section. So that's where we are. What I'm trying to figure out is there a comparable property to our property that can get me a midterm rental as a furnished rental? This is right above the 162. So I'm just having some fun. I don't normally underwrite for midterm rentals, but just because I've heard of this area, I wanted to figure it out. So this property is really, really close to here. What is this rent out? This is renting out for $2,000 a month. I would argue that the quality of his home, 1,062 square feet. What's my square footage? 1,100. Oh, this is a really good comp, guys. And I swear I'm just doing this on the spot. Okay, this is pretty good comp. All right. So for me, if this property is becoming available on January 31st and it rents for $2,000, I might argue, hey, that's probably what I will be able to rent my property out for if it was furnished. Now, because this is just needs to be like a middle of the road rental as a furnished rental, doesn't have to be like over the top. I would just use roughly around, I'm just going to estimate about 20 to 30 grand. I just do at least $10,000 per bedroom, but that's usually on the high end. But hey, let's go ahead and think about it. What if I spent additional $30,000? Okay. But now I'm able to get $2,000 in rent. I'm still setting aside 10% I'm still setting aside 10% every single month for maintenance. I still have 8% for property management. This will probably have to go to 10%. Like if you want someone to manage a furnished rental, it's usually a little bit higher. So let's play around the scenario. And I'm going to keep my vacancy at 5% because as a furnished rental, you might get like a vacancy a little bit more often. So this, to me, if I can get this to be a $2,000 MTR, $43 a month, I won't make more than 0.8%. For me, this is not a deal because one, in order to achieve a higher rent of $2,000 for this property, I have to put in more money to renovate my home to look like this property, because this property is my really, really good comp. Like I just happened to find it because it's really close to the property that we were just looking at that we're analyzing. Right? Let's look. Yeah, our home is like right here on Periwinkle, and this home is right here. So that's pretty much as close as a comp as you can possibly get for a midterm rental. So if you just pay attention to this property, and all of you might really believe in the Fayetteville market and you want to do a midterm rental and you just don't want to lose any money, not necessarily make cash flow, well, this could be a deal for you, right? So you can furnish it, live there, or maybe you know someone that's being deployed out in Fayetteville. Boom, this might be a deal for you. Personally, it's not a deal for me, but I figured I'd at least look at the MTR and help you guys decide, because this is definitely not a deal for affordable housing. But we rarely ever talk about midterm rentals. But in this scenario, this was really easy. Normally, it's not that easy to find a comp. I was actually very surprised that I even got something that close. Let me go back to the map. Is there another comp around here? Fayetteville. But usually for analyzing midterm rentals, I just go to Fayetteville really quick. I mean, there's some folks like Tanisha Epps, if you're in a subto community, that knows a lot more about midterm rentals. So she will probably be the expert to ask about that. She also has a YouTube channel that talks a lot about midterm rentals. Let's see. There's one more out here, $38.99. Where is this? This is really far down though. What is this? $38.99. 3-bed, 2-bath. So it's not like ours. What's the square footage on this property? doesn't tell me the property square footage. I would say our home almost looks like it, but it does not have a master bath, so it's not comparable. This would probably be like the best of the best case scenario. So I wouldn't use this comp personally. All right. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Here's what we did today. We went through the analysis for the Section 8 property. And what do? We first looked at one, the property. We did a street drive-by to figure out what the neighborhood looks like. We then verified the Google Street View with a crime score on tophap.com, tophap.com, and we checked the crime score in the neighborhood section. We found that, hey, it's a relatively good spot. What we then did afterwards was we looked up the FMR, which is the fair market rents, by zip code, by bedroom count. Afterwards, what do? We looked up the market rents. And we did that by simply looking up the affordablehousing.com owner section in the market rent estimator with the address and a bedroom count. The reason we did that is because usually for every housing authority, there is a rent reasonableness test, which means that just because that you see that the FMR or the ceiling rent is 1610 does not necessarily mean the housing authority is going to give you 1610. They will probably say, hey, you cannot charge a rent higher than what the market determines is fair, simply because they're a voucher holder for obvious reasons. So that's why we had the 1460 in there as our underwriting, and we bumped up to 1500s because it's a pretty small spread, not like somewhere else where we've seen like the spread is like $500 or $1,000 even, which is wild. Okay. Then we went in there and we looked at all the photos and we looked at the video earlier, and we saw that it was relatively turnkey. So we only set aside money for the 3,600. Just as simply as some set asides for that expenses. And our first scenario, we did $1,500 for our rent. And then we did $2,000 rent because we found a comp on Furnish Finder that was going to yield a higher rent rate, which is this property right here, which I thought was really close to our property, and it's 3-bed, 1-bath. So everything kind of matched up perfectly because even the square footage was 1063 and our home was 1,100. That was very, very lucky. But if you are able to get to a $2,000 rent, which is what's been listed here on Furnish Finder, you have to add in additional renovations to get it to that stage and furnishing it to an extent so that it can get there. I probably estimated really high at $10,000 a bedroom for the entire house, but I wanted to be a little conservative. And for me, this was not even a deal because even you got it to $2,000, man, that's still not a deal. And I bumped up the maintenance a little bit higher. I bumped up the property manager a little higher because there's technically a little bit more work with a property manager on a midterm rental. And I also bumped up the vacancy on that expenses. But this is just one way that, hey, if you are looking at deals and you don't want to just stick with Section 8 or affordable housing, well, midterm rentals is another exit strategy that you can explore. And I know our underwriting typically only focuses on Section 8 long-term rentals, but I've had folks ask me like, hey, how would you quickly do it? Well, first look for comps on Furnish Finder. And then I believe it was furnishfinder.com/stats. If you go to furnishfinder.com/stats, you will be able to find how often are people looking for rentals in the Fayetteville area. And you can see right here, map search and housing requests for Fayetteville, 62,000 people did a search within the last 12 months. And then people spent about 182,000 views or clicks in there. So this is going to be good. And it gives you a general breakdown of the market. Like, hey, are you right within the median? 1,500 to 2,000 is 25%. And then another 30% is 2,000 to 2,500. So these are all good stats for you to kind of keep in mind. And you can kind of see like, hey, what kind of travel nurses are actually traveling here. So some good stats for you to figure out and compare whether or not there is demand. This is what I would at least do on an initial basis, but it does not mean that this is the be all end all for this property. You could also check comps to rent by the room and see what will show. Hey, Colleen, that's a great point. If you really, really want, you can always go to Pad Split. That's a rent by the room model, and you can type in Fayetteville and see whether or not you can see anything there. I had another video that talked about analyzing pad splits, but hey, okay, no pad splits right now. Oh, is there? Guess not. At least not for here, but you can always check for other platforms or, man, even Craigslist. But that's how we would look at alternative options to see what other exit strategies we have. So that's it. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Again, I hope you all just copy the same exact property I'm analyzing using the same spreadsheet. You can DM me on Invest with Kent He if you want to copy the spreadsheet that I kind of modified a little bit. I've been given these spreadsheets by other folks, and I just learned to massage it and combine it into something that works for my personal analyzing style, if you will call it that. And what you can do from that point onwards is just simply post it on your own YouTube channel. Give yourself that credit, give yourself that undeniable track history of doing the work. Because ultimately, if you are someone that's really, really new, I remember what it was like to be new. And I was so scared of pulling the trigger on my first deal. Had I had a YouTube channel at that point where, hey, I might not even make it public, but I can look back and think about, hey, I probably know what I'm doing because I went live every single day and I analyzed the deal every single day. And now I'm probably better than 95% of America. And that's probably the only way you're going to be able to get over that self-doubt, that imposter syndrome, and get over the hump of actually pulling the trigger. Or you might have a partner that might say, hey, how do you know this is a deal? Well, you can say, well, go to my YouTube channel. And this is the past 100 days that I looked at a deal. And these were all not deals. So that's how I know this is a deal, because I looked at 100 non-deals, right? Another way to do it. So I know that the number one excuse that some folks might have is like, hey, I don't have enough money, blah, blah, blah. But if you're able to show people that you know how to spot a deal, they might want to invest with you. Now, full disclosure, this is not a solicitation for any investments. This is not investment advice. I'm simply documenting what I'm doing every single day, and all of us can do this together. This is why we're in a community together. Thank you so much for caring about affordable housing. Without people like you guys, I would have never had the home I grew up in. So thank you so much for caring about this. Again, I know it's a holiday season, but you guys can turn it into separation season. If you just spend 18 minutes every single day, like today, we spent 27 minutes already together. You guys can spend 27 minutes together, chop them to reels, and all of a sudden you have content doing the work that you would have been doing anyways. Right? So please do it with me. If you guys do it with me, it's going to be way, way, way more fun. Hey, Derek, how you doing, man? Good to see you. Let's do it together. Let's have some fun together, because this is what life is about. Just because I'm sharing these properties with you, people have been asking me like, hey, what if you really get a deal and someone steals it from you? That's okay. There's plenty for everybody. There really is. There's plenty for everybody. I would much rather have you make a lot of money on these deals, and man, we can invest in some bigger deals later. So have an amazing night, everybody. I love doing this. I love going live. I go live at random times during the day, but this week I don't have any babysitting help. I don't have any daycare. So I still get it done. I committed to it. I post every single day on my stories to say I am committing to underwriting a deal live every single day. So if you guys do it, tag me in your stories. I'll reshare it. I'll try to get you guys some followers too. I know how hard it was. I know how hard it was to get started. Everybody starts with one follower. Everyone starts with one subscriber. I will subscribe to your channel. Just DM me your YouTube link. I'll subscribe to it. I promised myself. I knew how hard it was, and I knew that if anybody asked me to go on a podcast, if anybody ever asked me to go on their YouTube channel and help them out, I will, because I know how hard it was and I know how lonely it was. So I'm just so glad to be doing this with all of you. I feel great. There's a lot of positive momentum in life right now. So let's keep riding this wave together. Have an amazing night, everybody. I will see you guys back here again tomorrow. Let's stay consistent, everybody.